guys, Level Cap here, and today we're going to be talking about the Tank Hunter variant of the attack plane in Battlefield 1. This is probably one of my favorite aircraft loadouts in the game. I also really enjoy playing the Bomber Killer as the fighter, but this has a bit more impact when it comes to air-to-ground warfare. And that's because of its primary weapon, which is essentially a cannon. Now, in real life, I think this is actually somewhat the equivalent of the AT rocket gun, which also is not an actual rocket gun. It's essentially a cannon that was nicknamed the rocket gun. But unlike the infantry version of the AT rocket gun, this one will do significantly more damage to both aircraft and ground vehicles. As you saw from some of the opening clips there, I'm essentially able to single strafe a light tank if I hit all my targets in addition to hitting the bomb. So you can do some serious damage with this plane, but it does take a little bit more skill than, say, the attack planes did in Battlefield 4. You really have to be on your mark, and when a light tank knows that you're doing a strafing run on him, he can actually set himself up to dodge your shots pretty effectively. Since the travel time is fairly significant, all they have to do is be driving in one direction and reverse and change directions, and you can easily miss your shots on approach. So obviously the light tank goes down the quickest, but it's also a smaller and faster moving target, so it's harder to land your shots, whereas the land ship and the heavy tank are much bigger and easier to hit your targets, but it's going to require multiple strafing runs on them. And usually if it's a smart driver, they can get in a few repairs in between strafes. So combining aircraft attack with land attack is essential to basically keeping that tank from repairing so that the aircraft can take it out, or maybe the infantry can take it out after the aircraft does some serious damage. Now, as our secondary weapon, we have two medium-sized bombs, which are great for doing some follow-up damage after you hit your primary weapon on the initial strafing run. These bombs can also take out infantry as well. There's only two of them, so you're not going to carpet bomb areas. They're more intended for precision strikes, but I enjoy them nonetheless. They are not always perfectly accurate based on the targeting reticle, though. In fact, I'll hit a lot of shots that I think were completely off, and then ones that were perfectly aimed seem to miss completely. So I definitely have to learn a bit more about air velocities and angles of attack in terms of how it affects the bomb's trajectory. Now, there's also plenty of clips in here of me taking out other attack planes and bombers. Taking out fighters with the primary weapon on this is pretty tricky, but then again, if you have a good tail gunner that can shoot them down, that certainly makes it easier. The tail gunner position on here, which is very helpful for keeping people off your tail, is not necessarily the most fun position to have, so getting randoms in there, or even friends for that matter, can be a bit tricky because you're just kind of sitting in the back of the plane while the pilot gets to have most of the fun. And if you don't see any armored targets or air targets, you can always do strafing runs on infantry. When you switch to first-person view, you can actually hold right mouse to zoom in, and that'll give you a better view of what you're strafing in on from really far away. And it can be fun to try and zero your shots in on infantry targets, or even armored targets for that matter. Now, one legacy bug that certainly made it into Battlefield 1, and I don't know if it was ever officially fixed for previous Battlefield games, but it was called dusting. And that's when you take a shot at an aircraft, usually because they're fast moving, with like a tank round, but in this case it's the attack planes round, and you hit the aircraft, the shell explodes, but you don't get any hit markers. That's called dusting, and it has to do with netcode and client-side stuff not matching up with server-side stuff, and it's pretty annoying because as a player you aim perfectly, you see your shell impact and explode, but the server doesn't get the same information, and so you see it explode, the server does not register the hit, and that's kind of annoying. Hopefully DICE will work a little bit on trying to fix some of the dusting, as I found it happens like almost 30% of the time when you're engaging other aircraft with the primary weapon. And really one of the main benefits about engaging other aircraft with this weapon is that if you miss a few shots when you're on somebody's tail, if it's not a super adept pilot that understands that shells are whizzing past him, he won't realize that there's actually another aircraft on his tail, which will give you a lot of time to sort of zero in your aim. And in fact, this clip here, I'm trying to hit this light tank on the pass, get him with a few bombs, but there's actually an attack plane with the Tank Hunter loadout on my tail, and I do sort of notice this and hit the brakes as a few shells go whizzing past me, and I think he kind of overflies me there for a sec, and I just decide to take the opportunity to zero in on this light tank down here. managed to get the kill, and the attack plane didn't kill me, although I got lucky. And that's really where a tail gunner would come in handy. Now, one of the trickier learning curves with this plane is understanding how to dive on targets. If you fly up really high and do a straight down dive, it doesn't give you a huge amount of time to do a pull away, which is why I like to do sort of a 45-degree angled dive most of the time, as that'll give you a bit better opportunity to zero on your target for a longer period of time and pull away more effectively. If you're doing a straight down dive, you got to drop those bombs well before you're even close to the target that you're going for, and that makes it much harder to hit your target. So I like doing sort of a 45-degree angled dive. You can try and do a safer dive coming from straight up above. It just gives you less time on your approach. And then, of course, you have to watch out for the anti-aircraft guns, which are probably one of the biggest threats to you aside from fighter planes. The AA guns can see you coming from a mile away. You could try and take the approach of flying low and sneaking up on them, but if you miss your shot, then you're almost guaranteed gonna die on your flyby. So you got to be careful with them. You can also try and long range them with an approach, but they have very good range as well. So you really just have to be sort of aware of who's in what anti-aircraft gun and kind of make an executive call there. Are you going to go for the AA gun, or are you just going to try and avoid it? Generally, it can be a problem to have a dedicated AA gunner on the map on the enemy team, because then if you get into dogfights and the enemy aircraft starts to fly you towards the AA gun, it can spell certain doom for you. So sometimes it's better to try and go for them and take them out, but if they're a good gunner, it's going to be very difficult. Now, the other thing that takes a little bit of getting used to is the size of your plane and how the third person camera on here can affect your perception of how close and far away you are from the ground. And I've died many a times doing flybys that were just a little too close, and I've clipped something. The wingspan on the attack plane is actually pretty damn wide, so you might be lining up for a tank kill that's in the city or something like that, and there's a few poles or trees around and you think you can pull up in time, but it clips your wing and that will take you out. Now, the flight physics can be a little bit wonky at times, so you can get your wing clipped and still be able to fly away from it. If you hit the 3 button, you get a quick repair, and that's basically if your plane is disabled to the point where it's really affecting your flight, you can hit that very quickly and it'll restore your flight capabilities. That has a recharge function though, so you want to save it for when your plane is actually hurting and disabled. In fact, I don't think you can use it when your plane is low on health but not technically disabled, which is different from how the fighter plane works, and I'm not sure if that's a bug or by design. Now we're going to check out a foggy clip here where I try and make a quick last minute adjustment to take out an infantry target, and I get a little bit too close to a pole on the ground, which does disable my aircraft, and I'm able to use the quick repair function to restore my flight capabilities. But it's pretty easy to misjudge just how much time you have to pull up from the ground. Also, when you're moving slower, when you kill your engines basically to slow down your approach, give you more time, your plane maneuverability suffers because of it. So if you're trying to pull up while holding the brakes at the same time, it's really going to affect your mobility. So at a certain point, you don't really want to be going too slow on your approach, otherwise you're not going to be able to pull up in time. And I certainly learned that one the hard way as well. Flying in the fog can completely disrupt your game when you're a pilot, and so sometimes if not enough people are spotting things on the ground or there just aren't enough targets to shoot at, I'd recommend just bailing out and not wasting your time flying around in an aircraft waiting for the fog to dissipate. Now, when it comes to dogfighting, the attack plane can go toe-to-toe with other attack planes, and it has the speed and maneuverability advantage over bombers, so you can definitely attack bombers, and they provide a very juicy target for you. Fighters, on the other hand, are much faster and more maneuverable, so you have to try and avoid them or hope that you have a good tail gunner to get rid of them. Hitting the brakes in the attack plane can occasionally cause a fighter to fly right past you, and that can be a useful way to get them off your tail for a little while, but it's not a permanent solution. Anyway, if you're looking for a fun, versatile aircraft that can absolutely take out ground targets and really make tank drivers think twice about how much they want to expose themselves in the open desert, the attack plane is for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it helps you start off in the attack plane in Battlefield 1. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.